It is deadline day in Michigan. If former Green Party candidate Jill Stein still wants a recount, she needs to file for a recount today in that state. The state officially certifying election results just 2 days ago. Trump winning over Hillary Clinton by just a little more than 11,000 votes. Stein says she's ready to pony up the money to check to see if those results are accurate. Joining me now, Ruth Johnson, Michigan Secretary of State. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It's nice to have you here. So how do you feel about being maybe forced to recount the votes in your state?
Well, in Michigan, we have a lot of laws in place, and we're ready to do a recount. We have people that are quite capable. Actually, our clerks that conduct the elections in Michigan were named some of the best in the nation. We have a wonderful system that has a number of checks and balances built into it. And one of it is we do not have our tabulators hooked up to computers. And we also have local clerks conduct. County clerks then have a canvas board that canvasses those election results, and then the state canvasses them too. So we have suspenders in the belt in Michigan to make sure that we have good elections.
So is it frustrating that you may be forced to recount in spite of all of those safeguards built into the system?
Well, what's unusual is somebody that only got 1% of the vote. It's the first time I've ever seen anything like this that would want a recount. The cost of the recount for somebody that would request it at this point would cost them, if it was statewide, approximately $1 million. And if you use the Wisconsin model, it means that the Michigan taxpayers would pay about $4 million of the tab when everything is done.
Well, wait a minute. I thought Jill Stein was going to pay the tab because she's getting contributions in to pay for the recount. So why would the taxpayers in Michigan have to absorb some of the cost?
I think the law was set up in Michigan so that if somebody felt aggrieved, if they thought that there was some kind of fraud — we haven't had one case of fraud reported yet — but if they thought there were fraud or they were aggrieved in election, that the taxpayers subsidized those recounts. About over $1 a ballot, we'll call it, is what it costs to recount. Michigan had 4.8 million voters, so we're talking about a $5 million bill if you use the Wisconsin model, and the person that would request such a recount would pay $1 million of that approximately.
Oh my goodness. And you know, I'm just looking at the 4.7 million votes were cast in Michigan. So you have the cost, that's one factor, but then you have a timetable too. Can you possibly recount all those votes by, I don't know, what's the deadline?
Well, we're hoping to have it done by December 13th. It is a difficult task. We're already gearing up. It is the county clerks, the 83 county clerks, that will be in charge of this in Michigan. And already they've gotten things underway and getting ready. In case it is filed, at this point it has not been filed for a recount. They have until 2:06 this afternoon to bring in a check and also to petition for that recount.
And then what happens if you don't get the recount done by December 13th to Michigan's electoral votes?
Yes, well, I can tell you they're already setting up to work on weekends, nights. It's quite a task to recount 4.8 million votes.
But what happens if they don't make the deadline?
I don't know. I mean, in Florida, they didn't meet the deadline, and so there was Supreme Court action. At this point, we have not had a state recount in almost a half a century, so we're breaking new ground here.
So is it possible, though, that Michigan's electoral votes might not count if you don't make that deadline? Because the Electoral College meets 6 days later.
Yes, well, you have to remember this has gone through the local clerks, the county canvas board, and the state canvas board, and those certificates have already been issued.
All right, I have to leave it there. Ruth Johnson, thank you so much for being with me this morning.